All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are breaking down a really powerful strategy for learning pretty much anything way faster. This is the method that people use to pull off these incredible achievements in what feels like no time at all. So, how does it actually work? So to really get a handle on this, I want to start with a story. I mean, think about it. How did one guy, all by himself, build a multi-million-dollar video game? You'd think you'd need this massive team, right? You need programmers, artists, musicians, the whole 9 yards. But what if I told you one person did it all from scratch and ended up with a global hit on his hands? Okay, so this is Eric Barone. Back in 2011, he was getting pretty frustrated with the job market. So he decided to do something kind of crazy. He was going to make a video game to honor his favorite childhood series, Harvest Moon. He just felt like it could be so much more, you know? And if nobody else was going to make that game, well, he figured he'd just have to do it himself. And we're not just talking about a little bit of coding here. He had to learn everything from the ground up. The programming, sure, but also the pixel art, the music composition, writing the entire story, even the sound design. For almost 5 years, he worked as a theater usher just to pay the bills and poured every single spare moment he had into this project. It's just a massive undertaking. So what happened? Well, the result was his game, Stardew Valley. And get this, it sold more than 3 million copies in the first year alone. Can you imagine? Barone went from making minimum wage to becoming a multimillionaire. He was even named one of Forbes' 30 under 30 in gaming. Just an absolutely incredible outcome. So the big question is, how did he pull this off? Was he just some kind of super genius? Well, no. It wasn't about some gift of genius. It was about strategy, a very specific strategy. Barone's success story is a perfect example of an aggressive, super-focused method for mastering hard skills. And that method, it has a name. It's called ultralearning. Okay, so to really get why ultralearning is such a game changer, we first have to talk about a huge problem with the way most of us learn things. You know, the traditional way. It's something called the transfer problem. And I guarantee you felt this before. You know, you cram for a test, you ace it in the classroom, but then a week later, when you actually need to use that knowledge in real life, it's just gone. Poof. That huge gap between knowing a thing in theory and being able to use it in practice, that's the heart of the issue. You know, some researchers even call it the scandal of education. And here's a crazy example. Studies have found that students who totally aced high school psychology often do no better in the college-level course than students who never took it at all. That knowledge just didn't transfer. It didn't stick. So this is where ultra-learning comes in. It's basically the antidote to that problem. It's an aggressive, self-directed strategy that's built for one thing and one thing only: practical application. It's all about making what you learn useful right from day one. It's the exact kind of method that people like Eric Barone use, even if they don't use the fancy name for it. All right, so how do you actually do this? Well, the very first principle of ultralearning is this: you've got to draw the map. This is all about something called meta-learning. Meta-learning is just a fancy way of saying you're learning about how to learn the subject. So before you even start your journey, you take a step back and create a roadmap. You figure out, okay, what are the big ideas here? What are the key concepts? And maybe most importantly, how do the experts actually do this? You're basically creating your battle plan before you dive into the trenches. So this process is all about building that path for yourself. You're not just listing topics. You're trying to figure out the how and why behind the subject. What are the core concepts I need to nail down? What methods and shortcuts have the pros already figured out? This way, you learn way more efficiently, and you get to sidestep a lot of the common mistakes that trip people up. Okay, but what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's take a look at a guy named Roger Craig. He had a goal. He wanted to dominate the game show Jeopardy! Now, he didn't just want to show up. He wanted to win. But think about the problem. You could get asked about literally anything. How on earth do you even start studying for that? Well, instead of just randomly reading encyclopedias and hoping for the best, Craig got smart. He actually downloaded a massive database of thousands of past Jeopardy questions, and he ran a statistical analysis on them. He built a knowledge map. This map showed him exactly which categories and topics came up most often and where his own knowledge gaps were. So he wasn't just studying everything, he was strategically focusing his energy on the highest value topics. That right there is a perfect meta-learning map in action. Okay, on to our second principle. And this one might be the most important of all. It's called take the direct path. The idea here is actually super simple. You learn by doing the real thing you want to get good at.
So let's look at the difference. Most of us, we take the indirect path. Let's say you want to learn French. The indirect way is studying grammar rules from a book or memorizing vocabulary lists. It feels safe, it feels productive, but the direct path, that's jumping right in and trying to have an actual conversation in French, even if you sound terrible at first. That's where you build the real skill.
There's this language hacker, Benny Lewis, who is a master of this. His motto is basically, start speaking on day one. He's famous for learning languages in just a few months, and his secret is forcing himself to have real, actual conversations from the very beginning, no matter how clumsy or basic they are. He just completely closes that gap between knowing and doing right away. All right, our third and final principle tackles an enemy we all face, forgetting stuff. I mean, you can have the best plan in the world and do all the right practice, but it's all for nothing if the information just doesn't stick in your brain. So we need to win the war against forgetting. This is a real thing, by the way. Way back in the 1880s, a psychologist discovered what's called the forgetting curve, and it shows that we lose new information at a scary fast rate. The biggest drop-off happens almost right after we learn it. So if we want to succeed at ultralearning, we need a direct strategy to fight back against this natural decay. And the secret isn't just repeating things over and over again. That's not how it works. There's this great quote from a cognitive psychologist, Daniel Willingham, who says, "Memory is the residue of thought." Think about that. Strong memories aren't made by just passively staring at a page. They're forged when your brain is forced to wrestle with an idea, to really think about it. So, a fantastic tool for this is called Definement technique. It's super simple. First, you take a concept you're learning and you try to explain it in really simple terms, like you're teaching it to a kid. The magic happens when you get stuck or find yourself using a bunch of jargon. Those are the exact spots where your understanding is weak. So you go back, you fill in those knowledge gaps, and then you try to simplify your explanation again and again until it's crystal clear. What this whole process does is it forces you to move way beyond just memorizing a definition. You can't fake it. To explain something simply, you have to truly understand it. And that's how you build real deep intuition, the kind of knowledge that sticks around for good. So there you have it. That's the basic ultralearning toolkit. It's 3 core pillars. First, you draw the map. That's your planning phase. Second, you take the direct path. That's your practice. And third, you make it stick. That's how you retain it. Plan, practice, retain. It's that simple. Look, ultralearning is so much more than just a few clever study hacks. It's really a whole new mindset. It's a way of looking at a hard skill and realizing it's not impossible. Whether it's building a video game from scratch, mastering a new language, or even dominating a game show, this gives you a framework to take on those huge, ambitious projects you've been dreaming about. So the real question to leave you with isn't just what can you learn, it's with a strategy like this, who could you become?